I went to school for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then we lived on a farm. And so to get to high school, you had to go into Fairfield.
So the school, you lived outside Fairfield and would have to go into town to school.
To go to high school.
Mm-hmm. And did you graduate before you went into the Army?
Just from the eighth grade.
I understand. So you left high school to go into the Army then?
I went to the Army at age 19.
My goodness. Okay, can you tell me about now? When you, what prompted you to join the Army? What was driving you to do it for you yourself?
Well, I didn't join the Army. I was drafted.
Okay, very good point. Then that's a very good distinction. So, if you were 19, I'm doing some quick math here. Well, I can't do the math. What year were you drafted then?
In December the 1st, 1943.
Okay, so right when things were really building up in England ahead of the invasion and in the Pacific island hopping. So you didn't choose the Army. The Army chose you.
Yes.
Did you were you okay with the Army, or were you hoping maybe if you'd enlisted in another service you might have gotten a different deal?
I didn't think about anything like that. I was happy to make a good soldier. That's what I wanted to do.
Tell me what were you especially good at? What was your strength in the military?
Well, I took training in combat engineers.
Were you building bridges and such, or airfields?
Yes, bridges across river.
Mm-hmm. So when you entered the Army, you were 19, you were drafted in 1943. You had seen what had gone on up to date for the previous couple of years. You probably knew it was going to be happening. I imagine you had a lot of friends who went into the service as well.
Yes. I guess I didn't think of it. I took my training out in Bend, Oregon,
mm-hmm.
which was a combat engineer training, and we took training on building pontoon bridges, mostly, and demolition.
I'm sorry. What was the last part there? I'm sorry.
Demolition.
Demolition. Okay, so you built and you blew up.
Building minefields.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That must have been dangerous work.
Well, it was, but if you knew which we did, we knew the pattern of the Germans. And so once you, pardon my voice.
Of course.
Once you found the minefield, which weren't too hard to find, actually,
mm-hmm.
and then you knew their pattern.
Of how they would place the mines?
Yeah, or they placed the mines. I forget now, but something like 10 feet apart. I don't think it's quite that, maybe about 7 or 8 feet apart.
Well, the issue is, though, that it's whatever it was, they were consistent.
Yes.
And so you had a good idea of where the next mine was going to be.
Yes. We knew their pattern. Yeah.
That must have been a huge help, actually.
Oh, it was a big help. Yes.
Now, put me in your deployment. You were. I imagine you received training in the UK.
In the UK, we didn't do anything in UK.
Okay. You were in Bend, Oregon for most of your training then?
Yes, 16 weeks.
So after that, where did you go?
California.
Mm-hmm.
Is the name of the town. I get the name of the town. Anyway, a replacement camp up in California.
Oh, okay. So that's where you would go when you were going to fill in for people who were already out of the Army?
Yes. Well, yes. And then my thought was, I'm bound for Japan's what I thought. And then was that close, but no. I was in California for, I don't know, I'm going to say a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got word that we were going to go on the train to out east to, I'm pretty sure it's New Jersey.
So that was your tip-off that you were going to Europe and not the Pacific?
Right.
Did you prefer one or the other at the time? You must have talked about it with your buddies.
Oh, I don't say I wanted to, but if I had a choice, I'd rather go to Europe than Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, so you went into, when did you actually get to Europe?
We crossed the Atlantic Ocean in July. I don't know what the date was, but it was in July of 44.
So the invasion had already happened.
Yeah, D-Day had already happened.
Mm-hmm. So what you came in where they had the beachheads, but then that's when your job was, because you had to do the mop up and the building of things to get the troops to Berlin, correct?
Well, what I did, I rode the Queen Mary over to England.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put me in the first base post office.
Okay.
Of sorting mail, and
in Brittany, yeah, I'm familiar with that town. Yes, it's right. It's right on the water, correct?
It's right on the. It's right next to London. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sorted mail till it was right around. It was right at January 1st of 45.
So you came in, you went to Europe, and you were in Europe then in 1945. You were in the Third Army?
The 28th Division, Infantry Division, had lost a lot of men on the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, that was at Christmas of 1944, yeah.
Yes, 44. Mm-hmm.
So you came in as a combat replacement then?
Yes.
That must have been very difficult for you.
Well, according to the papers, it was the coldest winter that they ever had in Europe.
Yep. I've read that history, and you guys dealt with everything, didn't you?
So I was put in as a replacement to the 28th Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm.
And of the Battle of the Bulge.
So in January, then you're there, and you're in Patton's army.
Yes.
And that's about the time that Patton's army was on the run. I mean, moving forward, putting the Germans on the run at that point, right?
Yes.
You must have played an important part in that then, in the pursuit, if you were building bridges that maybe they blew up and retreating or something like that?
Yes, they blew the bridges up so our army couldn't catch them. Yeah.
And so then your job would be to try to get those pontoon boats together so that your troops could go.
We built, I can think of about 3 bridges.
Okay.
Pontoon bridges, yeah.
I've seen movies. I know that they're not like real life, but it looks like that's quite a project to build a pontoon bridge.
Well, you have to put, you put air in the pontoons, in the boats, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, not boats. What are they? In the pontoons, and then you lay two rows of plank down them,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember whether the tanks could go over these pontoons or not. I don't think so. It was more foot soldiers.
Here you're getting the infantry into place.
Yes, foot soldiers and like jeeps and
Sure.
2.5-ton trucks could go over them. I know that.
Right, but the lighter things, the more tactical things, you were able to get into place. Tell me a little bit about do you have any really interesting stories to share from your time there that you've told to family and friends over the years?
Oh, not really.
Mm-hmm.
During my time in combat, it was such a cold winter, and our outfit slept in tents.
Oh.
I don't recall we ever had anything else but tents.
No walls and a bed, huh?
We'd lay. Sometimes we didn't do this all the time. Sometimes we'd lay down evergreen branches on the ground because it was frozen ground, and then we'd lay our sleeping bag on these branches, which I don't know. We always thought it helped.
I think that's a Boy Scout trick, so I think it's tried and true. Yes, and they got it. They got it from the Army.
And there's a young man from let's see, where was he from? I forgot about his name. Anyway, he was a medic.
Mm-hmm.
He was a medic of our outfit, and he and I slept together. There's two to a tent usually.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think. Of course, I was a corporal, and I think that kind of helped that I didn't. I like two to a tent rather than sleeping in a big tent like some of the boys had to sleep in. I don't know how many was in a tent, but a lot of people anyway.
I see. So as a corporal, you were entitled to certain things, and go ahead.
Yes, I had a little
comfort. Do you ever sit back? So let me ask you this really quickly. Let's stay in Europe for just a minute. Were you ever personally in the presence of General Patton?
Oh, I've seen General Patton several times. Yes.
All right, take away the movies and everything else. What was he like as one of his soldiers? What was it like to see the general when you knew you were one of his guys?
We knew he was a tough man.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, if he seen you throwing Kleenex or napkin or a cigarette on the ground, you picked it up.
Okay. He wanted to leave Europe better than he found it, I guess.
He didn't want us to leave anything behind.
That's a good policy, I think.
And we knew better. We knew better.
Yeah, that can tip off the enemy if they come across it or whatever. If nothing else, just the fact that it's wrong too. So he came in and he shook things up, and I imagine though, you could admit it now these years later. Did you guys in the Third Army maybe think, we've got Patton, we're pretty good at this job, we know what we're doing, our stuff's all shined, we're good? There was a certain pride with being in the Patton's Army?
Well, I never thought of it that way. I just knew we had a job, and he was commander, and we knew not to do what he didn't want us to do.
Well, he had you guys moving at ungodly speeds and distances in short periods of time.
Yes, I have a map of where we all went when I joined the 28th. Well, I didn't join. I was
when you were brought into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Quickly, Willard, why don't we talk for a minute about your post-war life? What did you do after you got out of the Army?
I went back to Fairfield, Illinois,
mm-hmm.
and a neighbor was a oil well driller.
Mm-hmm.
They struck oil in Wayne County, I think like 38 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this driller, which I knew him, we grew up together. Not necessarily, he was much older than I, but I mean, I knew who he was. And he asked me to join his crew, which was 3 men and the driller, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an 8-hour shift, and that was in the evening, like something like 4 to 12 or 3:30 to 11:30. I don't remember.
So you worked in the oil fields when you got out of Europe?
When I got discharged.
Mm-hmm. Did you find it hard work? Did you find it anything resembling the work that you had in the military at all? Was it different for you, or was it an improvement or not?
It was completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different. And I was a single man, and this evening shift didn't appeal to me, which I did. I worked for about a year on the drilling rig. See, that was 46.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Yeah, about 9 months.
So you worked in the oil fields as a young man, and a recent veteran. What else did you do with your life?
Well, then I got married in December of 46.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think an evening shift was the right thing to do. So I thought, well, I'll quit the oil field and go to work. There was a factory in Fairfield. So I worked in the factory till March of 48.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just 40 hours a week. It just looked like it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough time. I wanted to work. I'd at least work 6 days a week.
Well, sure, you're ambitious and you had a lot to accomplish, right?
And so I had too much time on my hands.
Okay.
So in February, I talked it over with the wife. I said, let's go farming. And in that area, the farmers didn't hire full-time men. I wanted to be a hired man because I could get some pay from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved up to Sterling, Illinois.
You came to Sterling. Mm-hmm. And were you there for the rest of time, basically?
Well, I found a man out at Milledgeville that would hire me. I told him, I don't care how hard and long you work me. I said, I want to work 12 months out of the year. Because that's what my schooling was. And it was a place that he had a lot of livestock, and so he kept me busy.
So you learned the farming business on the farm as a hired man.
As a hired man.
That's a hard way to learn it, isn't it?
For 2 years I did that. And then I decided I wanted to go farming myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a chance to stay in Milledgeville and be a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. It was mostly dairy. You had to. They're the ones that was actually where you could rent a farm. You dairied.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And that was 40 cows. That's about the smallest that you could have, was around 40 cows. And then you had a acreage of maybe 160 or 200 acres or something like that. And that didn't appeal to me.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I'll keep looking. And I ended up in Franklin Grove, Illinois in 1950.
Okay.
And I was on a hog farm, and that appealed to me.
What about that appealed to you?
Well, you could turn in 6 months. You would have hogs to sell after they were born.
Mm-hmm.
And for milking, well, you got to check every month. But that didn't appeal to me.
You found the hog farming more rewarding.
Yes, I liked the hog farm because every 6 months you had a little income.
There you go.
I mean, we purchased sows that was ready to farrow on March the 1st. That's when I took over March the 1st in 1950 on this farm.
Yeah.
And they farrowed within 30 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and
So how long were you a hog farmer then, Willard?
From 1950 to 1975, I raised hogs.
25 solid years.
Yes.
Did you do anything after that, or did you?
In 1975, I had purchased 3 farms.
Oh.
That's unbelievable, but I had my name on 3 farms. I was buying them on contract.
Where were they?
Around Franklin Grove here.
You're all around Franklin Grove, and that's where you still are, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1975, I decided to get out of the livestock business because I fed cattle and hogs.
Mm-hmm.
So I got out of the livestock business and started running farms. And so I got too much land, so I had one of my sons wanted to go farming with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked out real good. He
Sure.
and I farmed from 78 to 2000. And
so yeah, you had a very balanced career then. You
Yes.
did livestock, and you did and you were helping out your son then too, correct?
We just we grain farmed from 75 to 2000.
Yeah, that's so you did. Yeah, you did 25 years livestock, 25 years grain. You know agriculture very, very well. Is it just something that you just? I mean, you started off in the oil business, in the oil fields. Just something you had an affinity for this, for agriculture?
Well, my dad and mother lived on a farm where I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and I helped my dad farm, and so farming was something I liked. So,
And you got excellent training as a hired hand too.
Yes, and so in 2000, my son was killed in a snowmobile accident.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, so that I decided I would just give up farming.
I'm sorry, Willard.
Yeah, and I've been. I still live on the farms, and I still own two of them. I sold one, and
well, you still have two. That's quite a thing.
yes.
Go ahead.
Well, it gives me a steady income, yes, because I rent them out. So,
But it's nice to sort of be around what you've always enjoyed being around too. I imagine that's comforting and it's reassuring, and it's something that doesn't change. I mean, agriculture changes, but the setting does not change all that much over time.
well, I live on one of the farms, and of course we built a new house on this one farm, and so and then I rent it out to my tenants, and I've rented. I had breakfast with one of the men this morning.
Did you?
And he congratulated me. He said, "We've been in business now for 24 years. With my tenants, I've had the same tenants ever since 2000." So he congratulated me on that.
And I'm sure you thanked him too.
So he bought my breakfast.
So is there something you haven't done that you've always wanted to do?
Well, would you believe? You just I've always thought it would be nice to jump out of an airplane.
You've always wanted to skydive?
I always wanted to skydive.
Do you know, you wouldn't know this, I just talked to Dina about this. I actually covered the woman who was 104 years old and she jumped in Ottawa last year.
Yes.
And that was one of the most delightful things I've ever covered, was somebody who was 100 years old jumping out of an airplane. You ought to do it, Willard. I'm not, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take a responsibility for making you do something or pressuring you to do something, but I have to tell you, I just covered that very story last year, and she was about the happiest person I've ever seen. So.
Well, yeah, you jump with a person that knows that's he's jumped before.
Yep.
And so it wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, I don't think.
No, it's very safe. In fact, if you went to Skydive Chicago here near Ottawa, that's where this happened. They are very, very, very good at this. And they're very good at helping, special people, kids or seniors or things like that. Not kids, but you know what I mean, seniors and things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, they have one at Rochelle, Illinois. It's about 30 miles. Well, yeah, 30 miles from where I live.
Well, if you decide to jump, I want to be there to record it and interview you, because I can say that I knew you before you jumped. So let me. Why do you want to jump out of an airplane?
I have no idea. I seen I seen people when I was in the Army, jumping out of
The paratroopers?
paratroopers. Yep. And I thought that. Well, I know that was, from what I've read, it's very, very dangerous, which I didn't realize maybe that it was as dangerous as it is. But anyway.
Well, today it's a lot easier. You don't have people shooting at you on the way down, at least.
I just thought that I don't know. I just thought that'd be a good thing to do. So
I think that would be too. Willard, tell me about you had just one child?
No, I had 3 boys and a girl.
Okay. Any grandchildren?
I've got 9 grandchildren.
Are you able to keep them straight?
Well, they're all coming to my. On September 1st, we're having a party at the. It's called the Grasslands, where they've got bison at the Grasslands.
Is that a place? Did you own that place or that property at one point?
I never did. No, I owned a farm there that's close to it.
I see.
And the Grasslands bought that 200 acres.
Okay.
So I have a connection with them, and
sure.
So they have a barn that we can rent, and it's air conditioned, and so it's pretty nice inside.
What a great time you're going to have.
So we're having that on September the 1st, which is a Sunday.
And it's 2 days before your birthday, so you can just do whatever you want on your birthday then.
Well, that's what they tell me, but I'm not.
They might have different ideas.
I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. No.
Well, they might take you to a skydive place and say, okay, you always wanted to do it. Here you go.
Well, I think you got to take a little training before
you do. Yeah, you do. Well, Willard, so let me ask, is Dina the connection to Mendota? Is that why you were at the Sweet Corn Festival?
My lady friend,
Pauline,
her niece owns a real big house. It's an old house.
Mm-hmm. She bought her great grandparents' house. She's told me.
She's a niece to Pauline.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why you were there in Mendota. And were you were recognized at the parade? I wasn't able to see the parade. What happened?
Well, the color guards was marching by the house. Because the house is on the route. And so they made a left turn, of course, and in the street. And 2 of the color guards came up and shook my hand and congratulated me for my service.
Aw.
And, well, I guess that was about it, really.
Do you have any impressions of this area? I know you kind of pass through sometimes, but the Starved Rock area, you've probably been past it here and there over the years.
Yes.
What do you think of the area here that we're in?
Well, I think it's the greatest place in the world.
Oh, really?
The rainfall, you can just about depend on it. You get a little dry spell once in a while, but the rain usually comes before it gets too serious. And in my area, we just don't get hail.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a great. Yes, we have cold winters. I know that, but that's not all bad.
No, our family has a farm too. We're not in farming, but we have a farm, and it's a productive farm. But my grandfather always said, "It's just you're never going to find better soil than in Illinois."
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I say too. Good farming area.
Willard, I hope that this is the beginning of other discussions. I'd like to be able to keep in touch with you. Is that okay?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
This has been wonderful. Now, what's going to happen here, Willard, is I'm going to put it into a video form, and I do a weekly video that posts online every Saturday or Sunday, and this will post this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's only 10 minutes. So we have talked for about 40 minutes. So I'm going to have to cut some of this out. But what is going to happen is then we'll use parts of it on the radio and parts of it on video, and we'll just tell the story in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
And I'll try to find a way to. I know that Dina's traveling this week in Florida, but we'll find a way for her to get some of these things to you so you can see them. Would that be okay?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. I can't tell you how nice this has been. Do you have anything else you want to share with me about this? About your birthday, about service, about anything in general?
Well, I hope to have a big crowd at my birthday party. We're serving cake and ice cream. That's about all we're going to do.
I hope I'm not inviting myself, but I would like to meet you. Would that be okay?
It sure would.
That would be great. In fact, I'd like to do another story on you, I think, about how your party went. So, Willard, go ahead.
I've had an interesting life, I think.
You sure have. Yeah.
And it's been a good life. I think I've had a real good life and successful. Not to brag, but it is. I've had a successful life, and I've had a long life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I get to be 100, September the 3rd, that's all I got to say. Yeah.
It's exciting. It's exciting. I'm really. Go ahead.
Never dreamed that I'd ever make 100. Never dreamed.
Well, look at it. You worked in an active way, so you stayed in shape.
Yes.
You know, you worked in the fresh air all the time. You lived clean. You're happy. So it all adds up, I think.
Yes. Yes. I've lived a good, clean life all my life. So, yeah.
Willard, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, but I would love to see you, if that's okay, at your birthday party, if you don't mind my inviting myself.
You sure can come. It's 2 to 5 on September 1st. Yes.
Thank you, my friend, very much. And so I'll see you then. And meanwhile, I'll work on this story, and we'll tell your story for everybody down here, okay?
Okay.
Take care.
You.
Nice to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.